Every single morning, you wake up and execute the exact same submissive patterns. You check your notifications before your eyes are fully open, surrendering your cognitive baseline to the noise of the world. You move through your routine on total autopilot, convincing yourself that you have time, that somewhere down the road, an ideal version of you will magically stand up, take control, and build the life you actually want. That version of you is never coming. What you are experiencing right now is not patience. It is a bio-behavioral hypnosis designed to keep you safe, manageable, and completely stagnant. Your brain is hardwired to conserve energy and avoid friction, which means if left unmonitored, it will default to low-leverage comfort until your time completely runs out. You are quietly trading your finite life force for cheap dopamine, endless scrolling, and half-baked excuses. Most people will coast through their entire existence without ever waking up from this trance. They will lie on their deathbeds, realizing they spent 90% of their life reacting to other people's priorities, hiding from discomfort, and bleeding their potential into irrelevance. If you exit this right now, you will fall straight back into that automated baseline. You will continue soothing yourself with the illusion of tomorrow, while your real capacity rots away in the background. Stay right here. I am going to break down the cold behavioral mechanics of how you are actively wasting your time and how to manually override your central nervous system to command absolute authority over your remaining life. The most dangerous threat to your existence is not a sudden, dramatic failure. It is the silent, automated hypnosis of mediocrity. Human beings operate primarily on habit loops. Your brain constantly seeks pathways of least resistance to conserve glucose, which means it will naturally steer you toward passive consumption, superficial comfort, and low-friction routines. When you allow your life to run on this default programming, you are not truly conscious. You are an organic script running unexamined software. Wasting your life does not look like a single massive mistake. It looks like spending 40 minutes every morning lying in bed staring at a screen. It looks like softening your posture, shrugging off your own potential, and saying, "I'll start next week." Every time you perform these small, submissive behaviors, you are reinforcing a deep neurological signal. Your time does not matter, and your potential is cheap. Your primitive brain operates on a profound temporal trick. Subconsciously, your nervous system processes time as if it were an infinite, limitless lake. Because you do not feel the physical weight of time leaving your body, your brain easily postpones high-leverage actions. It tells you that the hard work, the ruthless discipline, and the uncomfortable self-confrontation can comfortably happen tomorrow. This is a biological trap. Tomorrow is the graveyard where 99% of human potential goes to rot. When you delegate your discipline to an imaginary future self, you are simply lying to yourself to relieve present tension. The future version of you will have the exact same brain, the exact same impulses toward comfort, and the exact same excuses unless you physically break the cycle in this exact second. You do not waste a life in decades, you waste it in micro behaviors. Observe your physical frame when you decide to procrastinate. Your eyes lose focus, your posture collapses, your breathing grows shallow, and your body enters a submissive, passive state. You allow low-value distractions to hijack your cognitive bandwidth because your central nervous system lacks the somatic tension needed for focused execution. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you damage your internal baseline authority. You leak nonverbal signals of self-doubt into your daily life. You teach your subconscious mind that your word has zero weight, making it progressively easier to give up the next time real pressure hits your environment. You cannot think your way out of a passive life. You must physically override it through your nervous system. When you feel the heavy, paralyzing weight of distraction or hesitation pulling you under, do not engage in a debate with your mind. Your mind will win every argument for comfort. Instead, execute an immediate somatic recalibration. Pull your shoulders back, root your feet to the floor, freeze your eye movements, deepen your breath, and lock your jaw. By physically forcing your body into a state of high authority readiness, you alter your internal neurochemistry. You send an immediate signal to your brain that the period of passive consumption is over and that high-leverage execution has begun. To stop wasting your life, you must cease operating as a victim of your environment and step into the role of a cold, tactical architect. Audit every variable that surrounds you. Remove the cheap dopamine triggers that steal your focus. Eliminate the low-authority social noise that validates your mediocrity. Set uncompromising boundaries around your attention, your time, and your energy. Stop asking for external permission to build a powerful existence. You do not need the approval of your peers, the perfect alignment of circumstances, or a wave of sudden inspiration. You simply need the cold, mechanical discipline to treat every single hour as a high-stakes operational priority that demands your absolute best. The time for passive waiting is finished. Your life is contracting second by second, and the window to forge an unshakable high-authority baseline is closing faster than you think. Stop soothing yourself with cheap excuses. Stop surrendering your cognitive power to meaningless distractions. Stop living as a background character in your own story. Stand up, lock your focus onto your highest potential, and execute with absolute, uncompromising intensity before your time is permanently gone. The comfort zone hypnosis is the primary biobehavioral mechanism that quietly destroys human potential long before a person ever encounters an actual crisis. Most individuals live under the false assumption that wasting one's life is a conscious, dramatic choice marked by blatant self-destruction or catastrophic failure. In reality, human stagnation is far more insidious, operating as an automated, low-level trance designed by primitive biological systems to conserve energy and minimize daily friction. Your nervous system is hardwired to seek pathways of least resistance, favoring safety, predictability, and low-effort comfort over the high-leverage discomfort required for true growth. When left unmonitored, this default evolutionary programming takes total control of your daily routine, transforming your existence into an organic script running unexamined, submissive software. This hypnotic state manifests as a continuous background fog that dulls your perceptual sharpness and dilutes your ambition. You wake up each morning and immediately surrender your attention to low-value external inputs, checking notifications and consuming meaningless digital noise before your eyes are fully open. By allowing outside distractions to dictate your initial waking state, you lower your psychological baseline and signal to your subconscious mind that your time is cheap. You move through your work, your interactions, and your personal projects on complete autopilot, mistaking the mere passage of time for actual progress. You tell yourself that you are simply resting or waiting for the right moment, failing to recognize that your central nervous system has settled into a comfortable, submissive frame that passively accepts mediocrity. The danger of this automated trance lies in its ability to feel entirely normal and justified. Society continuously validates comfort-seeking behaviors, offering endless streams of cheap dopamine, passive entertainment, and low-friction excuses to keep you pacified. The brain adapts rapidly to these low-effort reward loops, establishing a baseline where taking aggressive, high-authority action feels unnaturally difficult and threatening. As a result, you develop a subtle, subconscious avoidance of intense focus and hard physical effort. You begin rationalizing your lack of discipline, framing your delay as strategic patience or necessary self-care, when in truth, you are simply falling deeper into a bio-behavioral hypnosis that neutralizes your drive before you ever take the field. In advanced behavioral dynamics, breaking free from this hypnotic baseline requires absolute cognitive vigilance and continuous self-monitoring. You must recognize that your default inclination toward comfort is not an authentic reflection of your desires, but an automated survival instinct that must be actively overwritten every single day. Operating on autopilot ensures that your life remains entirely reactive, placing your trajectory at the mercy of environmental demands and cheap distractions. Until you disrupt this passive baseline through intentional physical discipline, locked focus, and cold self-assessment, you will remain trapped in a continuous cycle of unfulfilled potential, quietly trading your finite life force for the low-value illusion of safety. To dismantle the comfort zone hypnosis, you must treat your attention and energy as high-value operational assets that require constant defense. You must systematically audit your daily routines, identifying every automated habit that bleeds your cognitive power into irrelevance. By refusing to let your nervous system default to low-effort comfort, you force your mind into a state of heightened awareness, clarity, and urgency. You stop accepting passive existence as the norm and begin commanding every micro-behavior, ensuring that your daily output is driven by cold, deliberate intention rather than biological laziness. Wasting your life is rarely a single catastrophic event or dramatic conscious decision to fail. Instead, it occurs through the subtle, invisible accumulation of micro-behavioral leaks that erode your authority and potential over time. Every day, your body and mind communicate your internal standards to yourself and the world through thousands of tiny, nonverbal signals. When you allow your posture to slump, your eye contact to wander, or your physical frame to collapse in the face of minor discomfort, you are executing submissive micro-behaviors. These micro-behaviors are not harmless quirks. They are physical expressions of a decaying baseline, signaling to your central nervous system that you lack the discipline to command your own existence. The most destructive micro-behavioral leak is the habit of breaking small, unobserved promises to yourself. When you set an alarm for a specific time and hit snooze, or when you commit to finishing a task and abandon it the moment friction arises, you send a devastating signal to your subconscious mind. You prove to yourself that your word carries no weight, that your commitments are negotiable, and that your internal authority is entirely hollow. This repeated internal betrayal fractures your self-trust, making it progressively easier to surrender to distraction and excuses in the future. Over months and years, these tiny surrenders compound, quietly rewriting your internal self-image from that of a decisive operator to a passive bystander in your own life. This internal erosion inevitably spills outward into your nonverbal communication, altering how you move, speak, and occupy space. A person who is actively wasting their potential displays distinct physical markers: a softened baseline posture, shallow breathing, a high-pitched or hesitant vocal cadence, and a constant nervous need for ambient stimulation. You find yourself mindlessly checking your phone during brief pauses in your day, incapable of sitting in total stillness or enduring a few minutes of quiet self-confrontation. This frantic reach for cheap dopamine is a micro-behavioral defense mechanism designed to distract you from the nagging realization that your time is slipping away unutilized. In high-level behavioral dynamics, these subtle habits are recognized as the exact mechanisms that keep you tethered to mediocrity. You do not wake up one day and realize you have wasted a decade. You waste a decade by surrendering 10,000 individual moments to low-effort comfort and lack of discipline. Every time you choose mindless scrolling over deep focus, or passive consumption over aggressive execution, you execute a micro-behavior that reinforces your passive frame. These small choices act as quiet votes against your own potential, slowly wearing down your capacity for sustained effort until high-level output feels completely unattainable. To stop the invisible drain on your life force, you must institute ruthless micro-behavioral control over your physical frame and immediate environment. You must train yourself to observe your nonverbal leaks with cold, clinical detachment, correcting soft posture, steadying your breathing, and freezing unnecessary fidgeting the instant you catch yourself slipping. You must treat every small promise to yourself as an absolute, non-negotiable directive that must be executed regardless of how you feel. By locking down your micro-behaviors and demanding absolute discipline in the smallest details of your day, you rebuild your internal authority, sealing the leaks that drain your potential and establishing an unshakable foundation for relentless, high-leverage action. The illusory safety of tomorrow is a subtle biological deception that tricks your central nervous system into treating time as an infinite resource. Human psychology is inherently flawed when it comes to perceiving temporal decay. Because you do not physically feel hours leaving your body, your primitive brain processes time as a vast, endless ocean rather than a rapidly shrinking reservoir. This cognitive distortion allows you to look at your current, unexecuted ambitions, your unrefined skills, and your stagnant circumstances without feeling immediate panic. You convince yourself that postponing high-leverage labor until tomorrow is a reasonable operational strategy, failing to realize that your brain is simply executing a sophisticated defense mechanism designed to protect you from present discomfort. When you delegate your discipline to an imaginary future self, you are engaging in a profound internal lie to relieve immediate tension. You tell yourself that the version of you who wakes up tomorrow morning will somehow be more rested, more motivated, possess greater discipline, and be completely willing to endure the pain of deep focus. This assumption completely ignores the cold mechanics of human behavior. The future version of you will inherit the exact same brain, the exact same neural pathways hardwired for comfort, and the exact same inclination toward low-effort distractions. By pushing the burden of execution into the future, you ensure that when tomorrow arrives, that future self will execute the exact same deferral tactic, pushing your potential another day into the distance. This psychological dynamic transforms tomorrow into a graveyard for human achievement, where high-value goals are quietly left to rot under the guise of strategic planning. Every time you say, "I will start on Monday," or "I will fix my baseline next month," you grant yourself a cheap, unearned release of pressure. You receive the psychological relief of having a plan without suffering the physical cost of executing it today. This creates an addictive loop of endless preparation and zero execution, where you become comfortable living in a perpetual state of future potential, while your actual real-world trajectory remains completely flat and unproductive. Somatic recalibration of your central nervous system is the essential physiological process required to break the automated loop of passive existence and force your body into a state of immediate, high-authority readiness. Most individuals mistakenly believe that changing their life requires an intellectual breakthrough, a sudden burst of emotional inspiration, or a complete philosophical reorientation. In reality, human beings are physical organisms whose mental states are inextricably bound to their somatic posture, breathing patterns, and physical tension. When you remain seated in a passive, collapsed physical frame, your brain receives continuous neurochemical feedback confirming that you are safe, idle, and disengaged, making high-level execution chemically impossible, regardless of how intensely you wish to change your circumstances. When distraction, hesitation, or the heavy weight of procrastination overtakes you, your body naturally adopts specific nonverbal markers of surrender. Your shoulders roll forward, your spine collapses, your breathing becomes shallow and erratic, and your eye movements scatter across ambient stimuli. These physical shifts are not merely symptoms of low productivity, they are active drivers of a submissive mental baseline. Your central nervous system reads these physical cues as a directive to conserve energy, shut down focus, and avoid friction. Attempting to force a disciplined, high-value mindset while your physical frame remains collapsed is a losing battle because your biological hardware is actively working against your intentions, pulling you back down into comfort and distraction. To bypass this biological resistance, you must execute an immediate somatic override that commands your nervous system to reset its baseline instantaneously. This is not a gradual process of relaxation or gentle coaching. It is a sharp, deliberate physical intervention. You must physically snap your body into an absolute position of operational readiness. Pull your shoulders forcefully back and down to open your chest cavity. Anchor your feet firmly and flat against the floor to establish a grounded physical base. Freeze your eye movements to eliminate visual clutter, and draw a deep, slow breath directly into your lower diaphragm. This precise sequence of physical adjustments bypasses your conscious rationalizations and sends an unmistakable, urgent signal to your brain. The moment you impose this rigid physical discipline onto your body, your internal neurochemistry undergoes an immediate, radical shift. The sudden introduction of controlled somatic tension breaks the hypnotic trance of comfort-seeking behavior, flooding your central nervous system with a sharp surge of focus, alertness, and authority. You stop waiting for motivation to arrive because you understand that motivation is a lagging indicator of physical action. By altering your posture, breath, and gaze first, you force your mental state to catch up with your physical frame. The discomfort of the posture overrides the discomfort of the task, transforming nervous energy into a cold, steady reservoir of operational momentum. Architectural life sovereignty is the definitive behavioral shift where you cease existing as an accidental product of your environment and step into the role of a cold, tactical engineer of your entire reality. The vast majority of human beings live in a state of perpetual environmental influence, allowing their focus, habits, priorities, and emotional baselines to be dictated by external noise. They wake up to random notifications, react to other people's crises, tolerate low-value social circles, and accept the passive defaults handed to them by culture and circumstance. This reactive posture is a complete surrender of authority, ensuring that your cognitive bandwidth is continuously consumed by low-leverage variables, while your long-term potential remains completely unorganized and unexecuted. To reclaim absolute sovereignty over your remaining time, you must institute a ruthless audit of every single input that enters your psychological ecosystem. You must treat your mind as a high-security operational command center, actively screening the information, individuals, and environments that seek access to your attention. This requires systematically eliminating the cheap dopamine triggers, mindless digital feeds, and low-authority social noise that validate your mediocrity and dilute your operational focus. You stop accepting the unexamined defaults of your surroundings, recognizing that if you do not actively design the parameters of your daily life, your environment will design them for you according to its own chaotic, low-effort priorities. Building an unshakable operational baseline demands that you replace passive drift with strict structural engineering. You must establish non-negotiable boundaries around your morning routines, your deep work windows, your physical conditioning, and your cognitive inputs. These boundaries are not flexible guidelines to be adjusted based on how you feel. They are rigid operational protocols designed to shield your highest leverage activities from environmental friction. You train yourself to move through your day with an unhurried, calm intensity, refusing to let external disruptions break your rhythm or alter your internal composure. You take complete ownership of every outcome, good or bad, eliminating the habit of blaming circumstances, luck, or other people for your lack of progress. This level of behavioral control transforms your relationship with your environment, shifting your status from an easily manipulated observer to an unyielding, high-authority operator. When you operate from a sovereign baseline, you project an undeniable nonverbal presence that commands immediate respect from those around you. People intuitively register that your time, focus, and energy are guarded with extreme discipline, and that you do not require external approval or consensus to execute your vision. You move through your space with clear intent, maintaining an impenetrable frame that naturally repels low-value distractions and draws high-leverage opportunities directly into your orbit. Mastering architectural life sovereignty allows you to build an existence that is entirely self-contained, highly disciplined, and completely independent of external volatility. You no longer wait for the world to offer you ideal conditions, nor do you look to your social circle to grant you permission to scale your ambition. You assume full, uncompromising responsibility for the trajectory of your life, designing every habit, boundary, and protocol to serve your highest potential. By systematically engineering your daily environment to align with your strategic objectives, you establish an unshakable, high-authority reality that operates with absolute precision until your ultimate vision is fully realized.